Gandhi once said, "First they ignore you, then they laugh at you, then they fight you, then you win." This campaign has made steady progress since last summer, and I am very pleased to announce we have moved into the third stage, slightly ahead of schedule. In case anyone doubted, recent events have shown that my campaign is a viable threat. On Friday, incumbent Charlie Dent stated he wanted to bar and silence me from taking part in any congressional debates. A day later, Dent changed his mind and now just flat out refuses to participate in any public debate that I am invited to due to his objections over one of the 5 bands invited to the upcoming Freedom Concert to celebrate obtaining ballot access. The campaign has issued a press release on the band already. Dent also stated to the Morning Call that I am, quote, someone enmeshed in the ideas of anger, violence, anarchy, and bigotry, unquote. Since my target is unwilling to debate face-to-face on issues in a civilized manner, let's take a look at his mudslinging. First, anarchy. Since when does believing in the Constitution and the rule of law qualify as anarchy? From this campaign's principles, and don't bother searching for any of Dent's or the other opponents, they literally do not have any principles. The United States Constitution was written under the principle positive grant. What positive grant means is that the federal government is authorized to exercise only the powers which are specifically granted to it by the Constitution and nothing more. Dent and the rest of Congress violate their constitutional oaths on a daily basis. Dent supports 3 unconstitutional wars abroad. He voted for corporatist bailouts for bankers and mortgage lenders alike. He supports unconstitutional wiretapping without warrants, revoking habeas corpus, torture of enemy combatants, and much more by his unflagging support of the Patriot Act. He wants to strip American civilians living in foreign countries of their citizenship and murder them without trial or due process. Here is Dent on an accused terrorist who has been tortured and held without trial for years. Quoting Dent, "You see him and you realize he's an absolute monster of a man who is driven by his hatred and is completely unrepentant. You see him and recognize him for what he is, a cold-blooded killer with warped ideology." Unquote. So, who has sanctioned Dent to be judge, jury, and executioner of this man? Certainly not the Constitution. Second, violence and anger. I believe that the only legitimate use of force is in defense of individual rights, life, liberty, and justly acquired property against aggression. Under no other situation do I condone violence, as I believe individuals have the right to live their own lives in whatever manner they choose, so long as they do not forcibly interfere with the equal rights of others. In line with these beliefs, I subscribe to the Christian just war doctrine. Besides a formal constitutional declaration of war, the just war doctrine specifies that wars cannot be preemptive, that there must be a just cause, and innocent life must be in immediate jeopardy, that war must be a last resort after all diplomatic initiatives have failed, and it must be proportional in regards to the damage caused by the aggressor. Needless to say, both the Iraq and Afghanistan and Pakistan wars are unjust wars. Dent voraciously supports the violence of these unjust wars and nation-building missions and their inevitable consequences of death and destruction. The families of recently deceased service members in Whitehall, Hellertown, Easton, and Emmaus have tasted the violence Dent has voted for, along with 5,615 other service members. We must keep in mind that our veterans write a blank check to the government for up to and including their lives to defend the country and protect the Constitution, and asking our young men and women to participate in unjust warfare is a moral abyss that we as a country should never leap into. If we aspire to be a just nation, ruled by laws, we must resolve to never ask our military men and women to engage in unconstitutional warfare and nation-building missions. We must also remember that countless innocent Iraqi, Afghan, and Pakistani civilians have perished as well. Meanwhile, my proposed solutions are simple and logical. To defeat suicide terrorists, one must capture the current generation and prevent the next generation from being created from collateral damage and blowback, as our armies are currently doing. Our armies in Iraq and Afghanistan simply create more future terrorists and aggression against our country. Constitutional letters of marque and reprisal would be extremely cost-effective. Or we can choose to let the war on terror grind on for another 9 years as our economy crashes. The annual over $1 trillion military spending, which was all happily approved by Dent, is not economically sustainable. Lastly, bigotry. The definition of a bigot is a prejudiced person who is intolerant of any opinions differing from his own. Dent is using his incumbency to block my ideas on liberty, sound money, accountability, and the rule of law. If his ideas were in fact superior, why hold back from debating? This is an insult to the entire democratic election process, but not a surprise given Dent's abhorrence and disrespect for the rule of law. The new All Open Office forum that I will put in place will empower all individuals to have a voice in government. So, Charlie Dent, is that the best you can do?